How do we find the next Clayton Keller, the next Martin Necas, the next Matt Boldy? We have to look at guys that are going to break out, and some of these guys on this list could help you win your fantasy hockey leagues. These are the breakout wingers for the 2023-2024 season, and let's start it off with talking about guys that I have snubbed off of this list that I don't think are going to break out. The first snub I want to talk about is Cole Perfetti of the Winnipeg Jets, who played great last season, putting up 30 points in 51 games. However, I don't believe he has a chance to break out by a wide margin, because if you look at the lines, he is not going to be on the first line power play unit. Yes, he is going to get more minutes. He had 14 minutes and 58 seconds of total ice time per game last year, but I just don't expect that power play time to be there, and you need that to really break out. He's also a guy that doesn't put up great peripherals. His shots, hits, and blocks are not that good. He doesn't score a lot of goals. He's going to be on the second line with Velarde and one of Nino Niederreiter or Alex Iafallo. There's even a chance that Perfetti could be on the third line as well. I do think he's a promising young player, but he's just not there yet. The next snub is Alexis Lafrenière, and listen guys, I know people want him to break out. He was a former first overall pick in the 2020 NHL draft, but the issue is that he doesn't have first line power play time, and I don't know if he is going to get that power play time this upcoming season. If you look at the lines here, it is just going to be extremely tough for him to get that power play time. You have Chris Kreider, you have Artemi Panarin, you have Mika Zibanejad, and then you have one of either Blake Wheeler, Vincent Trocheck, Lafrenière, Kakko, or even Philip Hedl. There is just so much competition. It's not like Lafrenière has been horrible, right? If you're looking at even strength goals since 2020, Lafrenière has more even strength goals than Zibanejad. Unfortunately, it's just hard for him to eclipse the type of numbers that he's putting up unless he gets significant power play time. I do expect a little bit of an increase. Maybe he increases his point total by 5 to 10 points, but I do not expect a monster year from Lafrenière. I could be wrong, but I'm just not going to be drafting a lot of him this upcoming season. Another potential snub is Kaapo Kakko, for the same reason why I'm not going to be drafting Alexis Lafrenière. He just doesn't have an opportunity to be on the first line power play unit. I do expect him to get more ice time though. You did see in the latter half of the season him getting more minutes in the top 6, so there's a chance that he's on the first or second line, but there is a chance that they keep that kid line together, Hedl, Lafrenière, and Kakko. In general, I just don't expect him to get significant power play time with all of those other guys competing. He would have to outcompete Trocheck, Hedl, Lafrenière, and Blake Wheeler. I do think he's really talented, obviously. I do think if he was on another team, he would be a breakout candidate, but I just can't see a possibility where it happens. I wouldn't suggest drafting him, but if he somehow gets on the first power play unit, then you want to pick him up. The first breakout candidate on this list is Dylan Guenther of the Arizona Coyotes. This guy is extremely talented, and he had a pretty good rookie season last year, putting up 15 points in 33 games, an 82 game pace of 37 points, and he only averaged 13 minutes of ice time and a minute and 54 of power play time per game. Now, I'm not sure if he gets more power play time, right? They have Hayden Schmaltz-Keller and then Sean Durzi most likely, and then the guy that is also going to be in that first line power play is either Michelli, Cooley, or Guenther. I don't know what is going to happen, but he does have some competition there for power play time. However, I do expect his total ice time to go up, and that's why I think he can break out. I also think he can break out because he's an extremely talented player. If you guys saw how he played in the WHL playoffs last year, he had 19 goals in 24 games. The reason why Guenther is lower on this list is because he is on the Arizona Coyotes, and he's not going to be on the first line. If we're looking at the even strength lineups here, his line mates aren't that great. He might be playing on the line with Nick Bjugstad and Alexander Kerfoot, or he could be playing on the second line with Michelli and Cooley. That would be better. Keep an eye out on him because I do think there is potential there, and he's a really talented player. The next potential breakout is Philip Tomasino of the Nashville Predators. He played decent last year. He had 18 points in 31 games, not a lot of goals. He's only 22 years old, a former first round pick in the 2019 NHL entry draft, and the reason he could break out is because obviously we saw some promise last year in the NHL. He's played decent in the AHL as well, and Nashville does have a lot of opportunity for their young players right now. If you're looking at their lines, it's pretty wide open with guys like Luke Evangelista, Cody Glass, Philip Tomasino, Thomas Novak. There's just a lot of competition here, and if he can find himself on that first unit, then there is a potential for him to hit 40 to 50, maybe even more points, and that is going to be a breakout from his point total from last season. So keep an eye on him. We like to look at these young players who gradually improve until they hit their peak, so I do think there is potential there. The next breakout candidate is JJ Peterka of the Buffalo Sabres, and this guy put up 32 points in 77 games last season despite only playing 13 minutes and 39 seconds of ice time per game. He also got very limited power play time. Of course, he doesn't have an opportunity to get on the first power play unit, which is disappointing, but I do think he is going to break out because Jack Quinn is out. He tore his ACL or his Achilles. Jack Quinn will will not return until the new year, most likely, leaving the second line spot open for Peterka. He's likely going to play on that second line with Casey Middlestat and rising star Dylan Cousins, so that is certainly exciting. He is going to see a bump in minutes. He's going to have top 6 minutes on this Buffalo Sabres team that can put the puck in the net. I'm expecting him to hit 20 goals and potentially 50 to 55 points this season. Not a lot of power play time, but I do think he will break out from his 32-point total last season. Another Predators player is Lukas Evangelista, and like I said with Tomasino, the opportunity for these young natural players is absolutely going to be there this season. Last year, he had 15 points in 24 games. Yes, it's a small sample size, but if we're looking at an 82-game pace, that was a pace of 51 points. He's only 21 years old. He could take another leap forward, and he did play pretty well last year, so I do expect him to be in the top 6. He did get top 6 minutes last year, guys. He had 16 minutes and 34 seconds of ice time per game, and he also had over 3 minutes of power play time per game as well. That is promising. Obviously, the coaches like him. They do trust him. I'm just looking forward to seeing how he develops this season. I do think he could put up 45 to 55 points and potentially even 20 plus goals. Of the 15 points in these 24 games, only 2 of them were from the power play, so if the Predators power play does surprise some people, Evangelista could definitely break out. Quinton Byfield of the Los Angeles Kings, he just turned 21 years old. He is a former 2nd overall pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft. I'm very excited about the potential for Byfield this upcoming season. Yes, the Kings do have a lot of competition, especially for power play time, but he did show some promises last season, not in the goal department. He put up 22 points in 53 games. That's an 82-game pace of 34 points. Not the greatest, but if we're looking at the last couple of years for Byfield, he's improved. He improved his AHL totals year after year. If we follow this pattern, then I do think that Byfield is going to score more points. I do think he can hit 45 to 50 points this year. The reason I think Byfield can do good this year is obviously the Kings have an amazing offense, one of the best offensive teams in the league, the 4th best power play in the league, and Byfield is likely going to play with elite talent. These are just projected lines here, but there's a chance that Byfield is playing on the first line. We saw him play some games on the first line, so he could be playing with Kopitar or Kempe. Maybe he plays with Pierre-Luc Dubois. There's just a lot of talent surrounding Byfield on this rising offense, and I do think he will produce just based off that fact alone, and I hope that he can score more goals because his shooting percentage is so low. I expect that to positively regress. Next up is Chicago Blackhawks forward Lukas Reichel. Guys, he was pretty good last year in the 23 games that he played. He put up 7 goals and a total of 15 points. I know this is a very small sample size, but that is an 82-game pace of 53 points. And the reason he could break out is not only do I think he's a talented player, but he is going to play on a line with Connor Bedard most likely. It is going to be Taylor Hall, Lukas Reichel, and Connor Bedard. The rest of the Blackhawks team looks absolutely terrible. If you're looking on Daily Faceoff right now, the projected power play units don't have Reichel in there, but I do expect him to be on that first power play unit. I'm not saying the power play is going to be great, but when you're playing alongside a generational talent, you are going to produce. I do think he can put up 20 plus goals and 50 to 60 points this year playing alongside Bedard. We will see what happens, but he's only 21 years old and he's shown a lot of promise so far. He is going to get plenty of power play time, plenty of ice time, and that is why I do think he can break out. The next breakout candidate is a guy that I'm super high on. It's Arthur Kaliyev of the Los Angeles Kings. He had 28 points in 56 games. That's an 82-game pace of 41 points, and he did this despite only playing 11 minutes and 41 seconds of ice time per game. Now, I know the Kings have a very balanced offense. They have 3 lines that they can run, meaning that Kaliyev is probably not going to see an insane amount of power play time or an insane amount of minutes, probably going to get 14 to 15 minutes of ice time a game, and we saw what he could do with 11 minutes, so I'm extremely high on Kaliyev. If you are looking at his power play goals per 60 minutes this season, guys, number 1, Leon Draisaitl, number 2, Tage Thompson, number 3, Timo Meier, number 4, Mika Zibanejad, and number 5, Arthur Kaliyev, a higher power play goals per game than Kirill Kaprizov and Connor McDavid. He deserves more power play time. He deserves more ice time. I expect those numbers to go up, and if that's the case, then this guy could potentially put up 25 goals this year and 50 to 60 points. We will see what happens. The opportunity needs to be there for him to get that, but he deserves it at this point. Next up is Kent Johnson of the Columbus Blue Jackets. He had a great rookie year, guys. He's a former top 5 pick in the 2021 NHL entry draft, and he had 40 points in 79 games last year, put up 16 goals as well on this horrible Columbus Blue Jackets team. Guys, he only averaged 14 minutes and 31 seconds of ice time per game and a minute and 45 seconds of power play time per game as well. I expect these numbers to go up, and if he can put up those points with that ice time, I do think that he has a potential to break out and hit 60 plus points. Now, I know that he was a center, but he could be playing on the wing this year. They have Adam Fantilli coming in. They have Boone Jenner. They've talked about Laine playing center as well. well. So if that's the case, he probably will have dual eligibility. He will be playing on the top 6, and yes, that line could be Kent Johnson, Adam Fantilli, and Marchenko. It's not the greatest, but I'm pretty high in Marchenko, and I think Fantilli is an amazing prospect. So that line could be pretty good, inexperienced players, but because all of those guys have potential, I do think that all of them could break out. Like always with these breakouts, it does come down to first line power play time, and I do think he will be on the first unit. Obviously, you have Adam Fantilli there, but I would prefer to see Johnny Gaudreau, Ken Johnson, Kirill Marchenko, Zach Werenski, and Patrick Laine. If that is the first unit and Kent Johnson is on it, expect massive numbers from him. We will see what happens, but I do think this Columbus Blue Jackets team is sneaky, and that power play could be pretty good. I do expect him to take another leap forward. He's only 20 years old, guys. Next up is Lucas Raymond of the Detroit Red Wings. He did have a sophomore slump last season after a pretty good rookie year. In his rookie season, he had 57 points in 82 games, and last year he only had 45 points in 74 games. He is a guy that was 4th overall in the 2020 NHL entry draft, and I do think the potential is there. The Red Wings just added Alex DeBrincat, who is going to play alongside Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. Maybe this could help Raymond take another leap forward. He's also 21 years old, guys. He's still a young player. He's still learning. I do expect him to improve going into his 3rd season. For breakouts, we are looking for young players who are going to get plenty of opportunity on their teams, and Lucas Raymond fits that definition perfectly. He is going to be on the first line. He is going to be on the first line power play unit. I would suggest drafting Lucas Raymond. I think he's probably going to go pretty late because he played bad last season. Definitely take a look at him in your later rounds. Next up is another Blue Jackets player, Kirill Marchenko, and this guy broke out last season, putting up 21 goals in 59 games. He only had 4 assists, so he had a total of 25 points, but that goal total is definitely enticing. He was on a 29 goal pace in an 82 game season, and that is why I do think he is going to be a very big sleeper in these drafts. He was a rookie last season, but he is a guy that's 23 years old. He played in the KHL prior. He played in the AHL for 16 games last year and absolutely destroyed. So I do think he is a legit player. And the fact is, the Blue Jackets were really banged up last year. Yes, that gave him more opportunity, but he's going to be playing alongside better talent. Hopefully Patrick Laine is healthy. Zach Werenski will be back as well. That first line power play could be pretty good. And obviously the case for Marchenko is if he's on that first power play unit alongside Johnny Gaudreau, Zach Werenski, and Patrick Laine. I do expect Marchenko to be on there because he can score goals so well. He could potentially hit 30 plus goals this year. I'm not saying that's the case, but I do expect him to hit 25 plus goals, probably get more assists as well as he's surrounded by better talent. If the power play time is there, I am expecting big things. He might not have the best plus minus, but I think the Blue Jackets are a slept on team this year, and he will do very well. Seth Jarvis of the Carolina Hurricanes is a guy that definitely could break out this season. He did have a sophomore slump last year, putting up 39 points in 82 games compared to his rookie year in which he put up 40 points in 68 games. However, he did look pretty good in the playoffs a couple of months ago. He put up 10 points in 15 games, and I do think that could be a sign of things to come. Now, there is a chance he could be a guy like Martin Necas. It took 4 seasons for him to really break out. However, going into his 3rd year, I do expect him to take another leap forward. A former 13th overall pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft. Carolina isn't the greatest team for fantasy production, but if Seth Jarvis is on the first line power play unit, I do expect him to produce. It all depends on the lines as well. I do think Jarvis could be on the first line, so the opportunity will be there for him. If you're looking at his ice time totals last year, 16 minutes per game, 2 minutes of power play time per game, I expect these numbers to go up. He's only 21 years old. His shooting percentage was low last year, so I do expect positive regression. He takes a good amount of shots. He puts up hits as well. His plus minus is good. I just think he's a guy that could potentially hit 50 to 60 points. The Hurricanes are one of the best teams in the league, and hopefully their power play can improve with him on it. We will see how things play out in terms of his power play usage, but he is absolutely a breakout candidate at his age on this team with the potential opportunity that presents itself. Owen Tippett of the Philadelphia Flyers is one of my favorite breakout candidates this upcoming season. Yes, he did break out last year, putting up 27 goals in 77 games, a total of 49 points, but I do think there is even further potential for him to break out. I do think that he could be a guy that hit 65 plus points this season. The Flyers had the worst power play in the league last year with guys like Couturier coming back, Atkinson, Frost breaking out potentially as well. You could see this power play improve. He only had 12 power play points last year in 77 games. I'm hoping this number goes up. I'm expecting this number to go up. He has plenty of opportunity. He's going to be in that first unit. He is going to be in the top 6. Also, he's a guy that puts up amazing peripherals. If your league counts shots, hits, and blocks, he put up 231 shots last year, 125 hits, 69 blocks. His plus minus might not be great, but I am expecting big things from Owen Tippett this year. I do expect him to put up 30 plus goals. He's also 24 years old, guys. I've talked about this a lot, but in age curves, 24 years old is the peak production year. The prime is around 24 to 26 years old, and because of that, I do expect him to take another leap forward. I also like to look at the end of the season. That's how I was able to draft a lot of Nico Hischier last year, because he really did play well in the second half of the year. And Owen Tippett, in the last 15 games, he had 15 points and 9 goals. And he also had 20 minutes of ice time a night as well. So Tortorella clearly trusted him down the stretch. You have guys like Couturier and Atkinson coming back. There's just a lot of things going for Owen Tippett, and I will be drafting him a ton because a lot of people don't know how well he played last year. Yes, he's going pretty high in best ball because people understand and redraft too, but in your home leagues, there's going to be a lot of guys that don't know Owen Tippett, don't know how good he was in the peripheral department as well. So draft Owen Tippett this year. I think he is going to be a monster. The number one player on this list is Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild, and guys, I understand he broke out last season. He had 31 goals in a total of 63 points in 81 games, but the same can be said for a guy like Jason Robertson, who broke out but then even further improved in the next year. Boldy is only 22 years old. I expect him to get better as he gains more experience in the NHL. This was only his second year last year, guys, and yeah, he was just absolutely incredible. He had 26 power play points, 255 shots. If your league values those, which most leagues do, then he is going to be extremely good for your fantasy team. He has plenty of power play time, plenty of ice time, and if you're looking at the end of the season, yes, Kaprizov was injured, but in the last 20 games, Matt Boldy put up 15 goals and a total of 23 points. I think this is a sign for more things to come, and I do think he could potentially hit 40 plus goals this upcoming year. This is a guy that I'm going to be drafting a lot. He's going pretty high in best ball or best puck, whatever you want to call it, but you are shooting for upside in that type of format. In redraft, you can see he's going much later, 82.6. I will be smashing the draft button around there every time. It depends on how sharp your league mates are, but I do think in redraft leagues, in your home leagues, he is going to be a guy that is slept on. My prediction for Boldy is 80 plus points, potentially 40 goals. I'm super excited to see how he plays this year and how he elevates the Minnesota Wild. We will see what happens, but I would absolutely tell you guys to draft Matt Boldy. Lastly, I just want to talk about Dawson, Mercer, and Cole Caulfield, guys that broke out last year, and I don't think they are going to significantly increase their point totals. For Mercer, yes, the Devils did get better. They added to Foley. They have Timo Meier now, but the fact is that means that he is competing with more guys for power play time. He only saw a minute and 19 seconds of power play time per game last year, and he still put up 56 points and 27 goals. So he's definitely an amazing player, but I just don't think he is going to break 65 or 70 points without that power play time. He's a guy that I do think is going to be fantasy relevant. I just don't think he's going to break out until he gets that opportunity. And then with Cole Caulfield, he had 26 goals in 46 games last year, putting him on a pace of 46 goals in an 82 game season. So do I think he's going to score more than 46 goals? Probably not. That's why I just can't have him on this list for a breakout. He broke out last season. I just felt that I should mention him because he only played half of the year and only had 10 assists. I do expect the assist number to go up, and if he plays a full season, he's probably going to hit 40 plus goals and around 70 to 80 points. Hopefully there's no lingering effects from his shoulder surgery, but a young player getting plenty of opportunity on this Montreal Canadiens team. I am very excited to watch the Canadiens this upcoming season. That's the end of the video, guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Around 84% of you guys who watch are not subscribed, and it would really help this channel out. We have so much content planned in the next couple of weeks, guys, so keep an eye out. But like always, have a good one and take care.